Welcome back to the Adventitious Adventures podcast. Glad that you've made it back, and I'm excited to go into the episode that we have today. It will be kind of one of my favorites, honestly, from our campaign, so that'll be exciting. As I've always said, you can find this original written episodes of our campaign on WordPress.com under the same name. And those are, we have this whole campaign and we have campaign 2 up there, and pretty soon I'm going to be uploading our third campaign, which is still underway. So yeah, if you want to check that out, feel free to go there and read everything. Also, as a reminder, you can find these episodes both on YouTube and Spotify, so whichever way you want to watch it is great. And also, there is now the first episode of the live play series that my husband and I are doing together. That's out now, and so you can check that out as well. It's under the same, name and same everything, but it just has a little bit of different naming and words and everything, so you'll definitely be able to tell which one that is. With that, let's get into a recap of last week. So last time, the party had managed to defeat the threat to the tavern, but not the one amongst themselves. Having been influenced by dreams, they began to argue and pull themselves apart. Even though they stepped in and worked together to help Saren after he was attacked by a strange woman, it was not enough to shake their suspicions of him. In the end, the party split, with Saren heading off to the temple he had come from, Inara off with Malvis on their own adventure, and Chop alone, still concerned about her village. However, all is not what it seems to be, and the unexpected reappearance of certain members of the party only seems to cause more confusion and mistrust. The story begins once more with Malvis, who wakes up in the back of a cart, traveling away from the city of Wolfwater. He remembers how he went to secure the city before being knocked over the head and unconscious. Quickly finding a way off the cart, he begins the trek back to Wolfwater, encountering Mittrim and Stephanie along the road. As the trio draws close, they can see a large commotion happening. A large crowd is gathered, and it appears some kind of battle has happened, because guards are gathering a group of charred bodies. Instead of focusing on the chaos, however, Malvis excitedly asks Mittrim if he has seen the house where the party first discovered the princess, and says that they should go there. Mittrim humors him for a while, before telling him they should probably check out what has happened here, and find the rest of their friends. Malvis agrees, and the trio begin to investigate the scene. Moving farther in, they find a group of guards who have also been slain, along with the form of an older woman. As they are attempting to piece together what happened, a few guards approach hostilely, asking if they've come to do more damage. The trio is surprised, and answers that they only just arrived, which only seems to confuse the guards, as they contend they are just trying to figure out what had happened to the older lady. Still confused, but hoping to get more information themselves, the guards let them continue. Malvis checks the woman's body for evidence of this being a magical attack, and discovers effects of transmutation and possession on her. While Malvis is explaining his findings, the group sees Chop walking away, seemingly out of the city. They call out to get her attention, and she turns back angrily, asking what they want now. They try to explain to her that they've only just arrived and are not sure what is going on, but she seems not to believe their words, spitting in their direction before continuing to walk away. Calling to her once more, they ask what it is that she needs help with, which makes her stop once again, turning back in confusion. Extending her middle finger, Chop explains that none of them wanted to help her save her village. Instead, they all just went about on their own business. Saren to the temple, Mittrim to find his dragon, and Nara off somewhere with Malvis. Now even more confused, Malvis runs after Chop, who has turned back around, asking how all of that is possible, since none of them were actually here. Instead of acknowledging his questions, however, Chop flags down one of the guards, asking if they know where to find someone who may be involved in slave trade. The guard is not sure, but tells her he knows someone who may be able to help her. While she is talking, Malvis continues to try and get her to tell him what is going on, but she continues to ignore his questions. The guard tells her that she should go to the physician in the infirmary, Yevon, because he sees people of all sorts and may be able to help. Before she can follow the direction, however, the two of them find Inara, slowly walking back into the city. As she comes close, it is very obvious she has been in some sort of fight, because she is bleeding heavily and holding her side. Going to her, they ask what happened, but all she is able to get out is disconnected words about fake people and betrayal before passing out. Malvis catches her before she hits the ground, as Mitram and Stephanie approach, just as concerned. Mitram tries to use a little bit of healing to see if he can help, but his actions only seem to make the damage to Inara worse. Looking her over, whatever has happened to her appears to be the same problem that had been affecting Rin. Chop, now focused on what is happening instead of leaving, asks how this could have happened so quickly, since she had only just left, and questions why the others know nothing. Not sure how to answer, the other three tell her that what they remember, happening over the last day, but the information is not quite enough to explain much of anything. The scene shifts to Saren, who is still trying to figure out his next move inside the Temple to Tempest. One of the city guards enters, finding him and asking if he was the one to have healed this strange illness that no one else could. Answering that he is, the guard tells him to hurry to the infirmary because there's another who has been affected in the same way. Not wanting to necessarily get involved, Saren tells the man that he will come if he gives an offering. The guard seems hesitant, but eventually passes over a gold necklace, urging Saren to follow. Meanwhile, the party, having been decided they are not able to do anything more for Inara, have taken her to the infirmary. Entering, they see the building filled almost to the brim with those who are injured or sick. They are not turned away, however, and are ushered into a smaller room and encouraged to put Inara down on a bed. Unlike the other rooms, this one only seems to have one other occupant, a heavily bandaged half-elven man who seems to be either asleep or unconscious. Waiting to see if the physicians can help them, they are surprised to find Saren come walking in through the door. When he sees who is in need of help, his face changes from indifference to anger, and he crosses the small room, threateningly telling Malvis he has been warned. Not sure what has made him so upset, Mitram and Malvis attempt to convince him to help Inara, but Saren answers that she chose her fate when she left with him, pointing in Malvis's direction. Now thoroughly confused, they try to ask him what he is talking about, but Saren does not even entertain their questions, instead remarking that he will be happy if Malvis dies before attacking him with a guiding bolt. Caught off guard, the attack hits Malvis, and he responds with a hellish rebuke, but not necessarily wanting to hurt Saren, sends it up through the ceiling, causing the building to start to break. Once more the scene changes, this time to a serene pasture, surrounded by trees. Inside this oasis of calm, a half-elvish man named Aldrin wakes to a bright light. He is not sure what to make of the light, which shifts elegantly to that of a woman, who addresses him. She tells him that much has been lost in him, but that much can also be found. That he can be a light or a hindrance, and that she can help and guide him. She introduces herself as Persephone, and charges him with helping a group of people he does not know, because they are lost and in need of her, and now his, help. Flashing back to the party, Mitram attempts to calm the fighting by saying they should be focusing on Inara, but his words fall flat. Saren, still focusing all of his energy on Malvis, summons a dark angel to him, but seconds later finds himself in a different plane of existence altogether, being sent there by Malvis, casting banishment. As he is trying to understand his surroundings, he is approached by a demonic-looking woman. He asks her what kind of magic this is, before realizing he has seen her before. Ula steps closer to him, telling him they have a common enemy, trying to convince him to follow her. He refuses, but she seems to double down, saying there's another seeking him, but she can offer him protection if only he joins her. To this again, he tells her no. The rest of the party is stunned to see Saren disappear, and ask Malvis where he sent him. He tells them to another plane, before asking what happened to have caused the cleric to want him dead. Before anyone can answer, the bandaged man from the next bed stands up, yelling at the party that they need to keep it down and control themselves. Malvis apologizes to the man, who after a moment tells him what he really needs is a hug, and embraces him. A moment later, Saren appears, now seeming to turn on all of them. Mitchum tries to ease the situation, but is instead cut off by the physician, storming in and telling them all that unless they are here to heal, they need to go outside. Still angry, but also knowing when to hold it back, Saren goes to Inara, casting the same healing he had on Mitchum's sister. This time, however, it does not seem to do as much good. The physician also comes and carefully puts salves and ointments on her. As Mitchum, Malvis, and Chop leave the room, the physician addresses the bandaged man, telling him he should take it slowly, and asking if he knows what happened. The man says no, and that he feels fine, although obviously had been injured. The physician removes the bandages to find that the man has been completely healed, before telling him that he was found in the Barrens, hoping to jog some kind of memory. However, the man says he does not know anything, even where he is, or what the Barrens is. Finishing talking to the physician, the man approaches Saren, who is still standing over an unconscious Inara. He asks what the Horned Devil did to piss him off, but Saren doesn't answer directly, saying he let himself get caught up in rage, and he is only there because of the payment the guard gave him. A moment later, Inara finally wakes, the treatments apparently working. The two men try to get her to tell them what had happened, but she seems confused, asking where Malvis is and mumbling something about him being fake. Not understanding much of her rambling, they tell her to get some rest before heading outside. Meanwhile, the rest of the party has been waiting. Eventually they see the physician leave, and Chop goes to him, asking if he has seen or treated any slaves or peoples like her. He tells her many people have come through the infirmary, so he's sure there has been, but he is not completely sure. Turning back to the group a little defeated, Chop finds Saren and the unknown man from inside come out the door. Just as they join the rest of the group, they see a man walk by who is the exact duplicate of Mitchum. Realizing they have potentially found the source of their problems, they call out to him, but he instead takes off running. Chop runs after him, gaining the advantage when the man stumbles over a cabbage cart, giving her the opportunity to tackle him. She asks what is going on, and the man tries to convince her he is the real Mitchum, even telling her to ask Malvis for proof. However, now skeptical, Chop instead drags him back to the rest of the party. As Chop returns, Malvis is trying to convince Saren of his innocence by pointing out there are two Mitchums. Now seeing with their own eyes the truth of that statement, Saren casts Zone of Truth around the party, ignoring the pleas from the man Chop had tackled to believe him. The commotion even brings Inara out, now seemingly mostly back to normal, as Saren asks both Mitchums if they are real. Mitchum honestly answers that he is, while the other man tries to avoid the question, before eventually telling them he is not. Influenced by the spell, he continues, telling them that he was sent by Valden Tekinar and the forces of Askai in order to split the party so they cannot interfere. They ask what he means, and why Valden wants this land, to which the man answers that Askai has joined with the New North in order to take the land as their own, because it holds the key to overcoming Persephone. As the man finishes his message, he takes out a knife he had on his person, stabbing and killing himself. The party watches on in horror as the man's form changes from that of Mitchum to the pale visage of a changeling, something they had only seen once before at the landing party for the people from Askai. Unsure what else to do, the party erupts into talking over each other, fighting about trivial things. Only Inara is quiet, apparently having not been as surprised over the reveal, instead looking at Malvis as if she wants to ask him something while they are still under the effect of the Zone of Truth. He notices her eventually, however, instead of asking what is bothering her, inquires if she has just been lying about the stone around her neck and being anything special, which just seems to make her mad. After a moment, the party suddenly realizes that the unknown man from before is still standing amongst them. He introduces himself as Eldrin and tells them as much as he has been told about who he is and where he came from. The party questions if he is allied with the New North, and he answers no, that he has no idea of even who they are. He also tells them he was told by someone named Persephone to join and help them, which he plans to do. Saren speaks up, telling the party that while he was sent to the other plane, he was approached by Ula, asking him to join her. Malva seems uncomfortable at this news, asking what he answered, to which Saren replies that he turned her offer down. Turning back to the still form of the changeling man, he muses whether there are others. Inara speaks up emotionally, telling that there were, but they have been taken care of and are no longer a problem. Mitram asks if that means they have been killed or just simply incapacitated, but her answer is cut off by the sounds of the city being attacked. The party races to the scene, finding 2 golems, one clay, the other iron, making their way through the streets. They jump into the fight, all except for Malvis, who catches Inara before she can leave, asking if she knew it was not truly him before she took out the pretenders. She answers yes, that she was aware it was not him before she fought them, but then she gets emotional, her eyes filling with tears before running into the battle. Now in the thick of it, the rest of the party is faced off against the 2 golems. After a few attacks that do not seem to do much damage, they are surprised by Aldrin taking out the iron golem by somehow managing to dispel the force controlling it from around it. With a renewed energy, the party faces off against the other golem. Malvis casts a spell around the creature, causing it to have damage just by proximity, before turning to Inara once more and asking what happened between her and his fake self. Caught off guard by his concern in that moment, she replies, asking if they were seriously having this conversation right then, before sending a wave of wind in the creature's direction, but failing to affect them. The rest of the party fights the creature hard, still not doing much damage against them. Whether this is because of the golem's physiology against their weapons, or the fact that 2 of their members seem to be distracted by themselves, the fight wears on. Eventually, Mitram, having realized the situation seems to be too much, unleashes Charmander from his energy ball, letting him join the fight. This seems to turn the tide of the battle in the party's favor, however it does not seem to do anything to distract Malvis and Inara from their squabble. Frustrated, she asks why he seems to care so much about it all, before moving away to strike the golem. Not seeming to give up, Malvis blasts the golem with Eldritch Blast, before moving once more close to Inara. This time, finally coming clean and telling her that he cares because he loves her. Any response to this confession that she could have is cut off, however, by Charmander blasting the golem with his fire and defeating him. Almost immediately after, the party's attention is caught by the people of the village, remarking that there's a large force approaching, seemingly nervous and scared. As the party watches, a large army appears, bleeding steadily into the city until they are right in front of them. From among them, a tiefling man, dressed much more richly than those around him, steps out, urging the crowds to not be afraid. He introduces himself as a Kurduana Arman Omodiri Albashad, and he tells them he has traveled from Jadura in order to join forces with those from the south and Diskai, as the story fades out. Okay. Number 1, I'm glad it only took me 2 tries to say that name because that is a mouthful. Thank you to one of our friends for creating that whole thing. But I think I did it. Hopefully. We're good. And another note, this was, like I said in the beginning, one of my favorite episodes, simply for the ending. The beginning was really confusing, and it was funny because 2 of the people had been gone, and so they had been, not real people in the episode before, so now they're back and they were just as confused. I think the DM actually told them a little bit of what was going on, but not enough to, change how they'd react. So that was kind of fun to see, their confusion and everything else. Also then, the ending was just so fun. We didn't, again, naturally plan for this whole conversation in the middle of a battle, but me and the other player just went with it, and every time we had it come to our turn, it said something back and forth, which was kind of funny, and it still makes me laugh to this day, which is why it's one of the favorites. in that regard, because you'd think you'd be focused on what was happening, but nope, let's just have this fight that leads to this big actual revelation. So you learn that it's, it may have been said last time by this fake person, but it actually is real. So that was kind of fun. Next week, we get to kind of see some of the fallout of this group arriving and how that influences everything else. You also will get to learn a little bit more about who Akur, that's what we called him in campaign, is, and how he's connected to somebody in the party. And maybe you know, because if you've looked at or I've talked about names, maybe you can figure that out. But he is connected, so we'll get to see the ramifications of that next time. So until then, roll well, and I will see you then.